Step into a tale where opulence collides with heartbreak, set against the glittering backdrop of an exclusive New York restaurant. Millionaire Ethan Brooks leans in over a candlelit table, lost in the charm of his new love, Sophia, when a figure from his past shatters the moment. It's Ava, his ex-wife, her silhouette unmistakable, her pregnancy undeniable. In an instant, the room seems to still, and buried wounds rip open, unleashing a storm of questions Ethan isn't ready to face. But what begins as a tense, accidental encounter soon unravels into a revelation powerful enough to upend his world. Can one unexpected glance alter the course of their lives forever? This is a journey of love tested, redemption sought, and choices that will echo for years to come. Beneath the glittering canopy of the Sapphire Room, Manhattan's crown jewel of dining, Ethan Brooks enters with the quiet authority of a man who commands empires. Golden light cascades from crystal chandeliers, catching on the immaculate lines of his tailored suit, each reflection a reminder of the fortune he's built brick by brick. At his side drifts Sophia, the embodiment of effortless grace, her silk gown rippling like liquid moonlight across the Hudson. Soft jazz threads through the air, weaving between the clink of crystal and the knowing smiles of New York's elite. This is Ethan's kingdom until a single glance freezes him where he stands. In the far corner, beyond the glow of polished silver and snow-white linens, a familiar silhouette moves with quiet precision. Ava, his ex-wife, emerges in a simple black server's uniform, worlds away from the designer gowns she once wore at his side. The curve of her pregnant belly strikes him with the force of a blade, cutting clean through the armor he's built around his heart. He blinks, as if the image might dissolve, but it remains real, raw, and unshakable. Ava, once the axis on which his world spun, now moves among strangers with a calm born of endurance, her eyes holding a faint glimmer of resilience, shadowed by fatigue. Memories surge, unbidden and relentless nights in their Brooklyn apartment, the scent of takeout mingling with ink as she pored over her latest article, the two of them wrapped in dreams bigger than the skyline. That fire dimmed when his hunger for success outgrew the walls of their marriage. Boardroom conquests replaced whispered promises, until distance became their constant companion. The divorce was mutual, but the fracture it left inside him never fully healed. Now, seeing her here, Ethan's chest tightens with guilt that feels almost unbearable. What happened to the fierce journalist who could command a room with a single sentence, and whose child is she carrying? The thought twists like steel in his gut. She doesn't acknowledge him, perhaps she hasn't seen him, or perhaps she's chosen not to. But then, in a brief turn of her head, their eyes meet. The spark is instant, pulling them both back to a life left unfinished. Across the table, Sophia's voice flows on, warm and animated about an art exhibit in Soho, but her words dissolve into static in Ethan's ears. He nods absently, his mind shackled to the past, until her smile falters and she studies him with quiet suspicion. "Ethan, are you okay?" she asks, her tone gentle, edged with doubt. He forces a thin smile, but the weight in his chest refuses to lift. Around him, the Sapphire Room glitters on, but for Ethan, the air grows thick. Every step Ava takes, every subtle gesture, is a reminder of the man he used to be and the promises he broke. He aches to rise to cross the polished floor and ask the questions clawing at his soul. But he stays seated, caught between two worlds, between Sophia's present and Ava's past, between the life he's crafted and the one he abandoned. Somewhere in that space lies a secret one that could rewrite everything. Will he face it, or let it slip through his grasp once again? Before we dive deeper, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if the story already has you hooked. And drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's a thrill to know who's sharing this moment with us, from every corner of the world.
Ethan Brooks struggles to anchor himself in the present, but his mind drifts far away, swept into a whirlwind of memories stirred by Ava's sudden appearance. Her fleeting glance, sharp as a piercing ray of light, cuts through his polished facade, revealing a man haunted by what he has lost. At the table draped in white silk, Sophia continues to talk about an art exhibition in Soho, her voice sparkling like the wine glass in her hand. But Ethan hears only the echoes of the past, those days in Brooklyn, when love for Ava was all he needed. Those memories come alive, vivid as an old film reel set in motion.
He sees Ava, a young journalist brimming with passion, her hair tousled in their small Williamsburg apartment, her eyes blazing with fire as she spoke of articles that could change lives.
Ethan back then was just a startup dreamer, with big ambitions but a thin wallet. Together they painted a future where love and ambition intertwined. Long nights spent side by side, sharing cold pizza and bursts of laughter, seemed to stretch on forever. But Ethan's ambition swallowed him whole. Real estate projects, midnight phone calls, forgotten promises all built an invisible wall between them. Ava, once the flame warming his heart, faded into a distant shadow, left behind in a loneliness he never admitted. Now, watching Ava glide past the tables, her pregnant belly stark beneath her black server's uniform, Ethan feels a sharp pang, as if someone is squeezing his heart. She's carrying a child, but whose? The woman who was once the center of his world now toils, her slender shoulders bearing heavy trays and an uncertain future. The resilience in her every step, though weary, holds Ethan's gaze. He wonders what brought her here, to the Sapphire Room, where the wealthy like him dine without a thought for the stories behind their servers. Each movement Ava makes is like a knife, rekindling the guilt Ethan tried to bury deep. He recalls their final night together, in an apartment bathed in city lights. Ava looked at him, eyes brimming with tears yet resolute, saying she couldn't live forever in the shadow of his ambition. He let her go, believing it was for the best, that they wanted different things. But now, seeing her stand there strong yet vulnerable, Ethan questions if he was truly right. He chose skyscrapers over her, and the cost of that choice now stands clear before him. Sophia, seated across from him, slowly notices the shift in Ethan. Her smile fades, replaced by a searching look. She leans forward, fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass as if trying to read the thoughts he conceals. Ethan senses the tension in the air like a guitar string stretched too tight, ready to snap at any moment. He tries to smile, masking the turmoil within, but his eyes still glances at Ava. She moves among the tables, her smile polite but distant, as if she's built an invisible wall to protect herself. Ethan wonders if that wall could ever crumble, or if he's forever lost his chance to step back into her world. The restaurant's opulence still glimmers, but for Ethan, it grows stifling, as if each breath carries the weight of the past. He longs to stand, rush to Ava, to ask about the child, about the years they've been apart, about the scars he left behind. Yet he remains seated, trapped between present and past, between Sophia and Ava, between the man he has become and the man he once swore he'd never be. A fleeting glance from Ava, lasting only a second, is enough to make his heart tremble. What lies behind that glance? And could it shatter everything Ethan has built? Beneath the dim glow of the streetlights in the alley behind the Sapphire Room, Ethan Brooks stands motionless, his breath mingling with the biting chill of the Manhattan night. His mind echoes with the image of Ava, his ex-wife, her pregnant belly and resolute yet weary eyes burning like an ember amidst a gust of wind. As the jazz melodies from the restaurant fade into the darkness, Ethan waits furtively for Ava after her shift, his heart pounding as if it might shatter his chest. This is a moment he cannot escape, a chance to confront the past, the mistakes that tore their love apart. Ava steps out from the back door, her thin coat barely shielding her from the cold of the New York night or her own fragility. Her face, exhausted from a long shift, still radiates an unyielding beauty like neon lights reflecting on rain-soaked streets. She pauses upon seeing Ethan, her eyes flashing with a spark of wariness, as if he were a ghost from a past she wishes to avoid. Ethan senses the invisible distance between them, a wall built from broken promises and lonely nights he left her to endure. He steps forward, his polished leather shoes touching the glistening pavement, each step heavy with a decade of regret. He longs to speak, to shatter the stifling silence, but his throat is dry. Ava, with a calm born of pride, stands tall, her hands cradling her belly as if shielding her unborn child from old wounds. She needs no words to tell her story, her resilient gaze speaks volumes. Ethan knows she abandoned a brilliant journalism career, once making her a star in New York's media world, to pursue a nobler dream, a nonprofit organization aiding Brooklyn's struggling children. But that dream, like the flickering streetlights, is dimmed by harsh reality. Serving at the Sapphire Room with its heavy trays and forced smiles is her only means to sustain herself and prepare for her child. Ethan feels a piercing ache, as if each heartbeat reminds him of what he took from her. He recalls days when Ava spoke of changing the world, her voice brimming with fervor, her eyes shining like stars over Coney Island. Now, she stands before him, no longer the woman he knew, but a warrior, battling alone in an unforgiving world. He wants to ask about the child, about the man who left her, about the years they've been apart, but words seem trapped in his throat. Instead, he stands there, torn between a desire to atone and the fear of rejection. Ava looks at him, her gaze not angry but deeply wounded, as if she's learned to shield herself from empty promises. She doesn't need his pity, and that makes Ethan feel smaller. He wants to reach out, to say he can help, that he can bring light to her difficult life. But Ava, with a small yet resolute gesture, shakes her head, as if reminding him she's no longer the woman who waited for him through late-night meetings. She has found her own strength, forged in pain. The alley falls silent, save for the wind whistling through towering buildings, whispering untold secrets. Ethan feels an emptiness in his heart, where love for Ava once reigned. He yearns to know about the child, about what happened after their parting, but Ava's eyes seem to conceal a larger story, a secret that could topple the perfect world he's built. As she turns away, stepping into the shadows, Ethan stands frozen, caught between present and past, between Manhattan's opulence and Brooklyn's memories. What secret lies behind Ava's steadfast gaze, and will Ethan dare to face it? In the opulent penthouse on the Upper East Side, the lights of New York City spill through vast glass windows like glittering diamonds, yet Ethan Brooks feels himself standing in a chilling void. The encounter with Ava in the alley behind the Sapphire Room lingers, haunting him like a mournful jazz melody that refuses to fade. His mind drifts between Ava's resolute gaze and the unanswered questions about the child she carries. Beside him, Sophia, with a beauty as sharp as a flawless painting, tries to pull him back to the present with talk of a Hamptons gala, but her voice is like a fleeting breeze, unable to touch Ethan's turbulent heart. The penthouse, with its walls adorned with contemporary art and lavish furnishings, once stood as a testament to Ethan's success. Now, it feels suffocating, like a gilded prison caging the emotions he tried to bury. Ava's image, her pregnant belly, and quiet resilience keeps resurfacing, starkly contrasting the glamorous life he's built with Sophia. He recalls days in Brooklyn when he and Ava shared simple dreams in a modest apartment where her laughter was the only light he needed. But he traded that light for the pursuit of skyscrapers, leaving Ava in the shadows of promises he failed to keep. Sophia, with her keen intuition, senses the distance in Ethan's eyes. She falls silent, her hands releasing the wine glass, her gaze shifting from alluring to probing. The air between them grows taut, like a guitar string stretched to its limit. She leans forward, her golden hair shimmering under the light, her stare piercing, as if to unravel Ethan's soul. He feels her suspicion, like an undercurrent poised to drown the fragile perfection of their relationship. He attempts a smile, but it's forced, unable to mask the storm of emotions within. Ava's image, standing in the cold alley with eyes full of hurt yet unwavering, renders him unable to focus on anything Sophia says. Memories of Ava cut like shards of broken glass, sharp and irreparable. Ethan recalls their final night together when Ava stood at the apartment door, eyes brimming with tears but voice firm, declaring she couldn't live forever in the shadow of his ambition. He let her go, believing it was right, that his life would be fuller with million-dollar deals and high society galas. But now, in this penthouse, emptiness engulfs him. Sophia, with all her charm and wit, cannot fill the void Ava left behind. Ethan questions whether he's truly happy or merely staging a performance to escape his past. Sophia, sensing an undeniable distance, rises, her silk dress rustling like a warning. She looks at Ethan, her eyes a mix of hurt and anger, as if realizing his heart isn't fully hers. Without words, her silence speaks volumes. She feels betrayed, not by a specific act, but by the truth that Ethan is being pulled back to a past where she has no place. As she leaves, the sound of her heels echoes on the marble floor like hammer strikes against the perfect facade of Ethan's life. He sits alone, the city lights illuminating his face, yet unable to dispel the darkness in his soul. The penthouse now lies silent, save for the echoes of nagging questions. Ethan gazes at New York's skyline, where the buildings he erected stand tall, but they cannot answer the deepest question in his heart. What does he truly want? A lavish life with Sophia, or a chance to atone with Ava? And the child, could it carry a piece of him, a secret that might shatter everything? As the city lights flicker, Ethan senses a shift in the wind, carrying both hope and fear. Could an unexpected call change it all? Or will Ethan remain forever trapped in his own darkness? Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. As dawn fades over New York's skyline, Ethan Brooks' penthouse on the Upper East Side sinks into an uneasy stillness, as if the city holds its breath, awaiting something momentous. After the night Sophia walked away, Ethan feels himself teetering on the edge of an inescapable truth. Ava's resolute yet wounded gaze in the alley behind the Sapphire Room haunts him, etched into his mind like an indelible painting, impossible to erase. As the first light of day streams through the glass windows, Ethan's phone vibrates, shattering the silence. A call from Mia, the rare mutual friend still connected to both him and Ava, carries a secret potent enough to crumble the perfect world he's built. Mia, with a voice low but weighty, unveils a truth that leaves Ethan breathless, as if the air has been sucked from the room. In the final months before their divorce, he and Ava shared a fleeting night of reconciliation, a moment of weakness amidst the cracks of their marriage. Ava, though uncertain, suspects the child she carries might be Ethan's. Yet, out of pride, she chose silence, unwilling to draw him back into her life merely for duty. Mia's words hit like a tidal wave, washing away every layer of Ethan's confidence. He collapses into a leather chair, his gaze lost among the skyscrapers, once his pride, now just hollow blocks of concrete. Guilt, like a smoldering ember, flares within Ethan's chest. He recalls Ava in the alley, her hands cradling her belly as if shielding her unborn child from a harsh world. She chose to fight alone, seeking nothing from the man who abandoned her for ambition. Her resilience humbles Ethan, making him feel small, as if all his million-dollar deals and lavish penthouse pale beside the strength in her eyes. He wonders if the child truly carries a part of him, a bond he overlooked, or if it's merely a possibility that sets his heart trembling. Unable to stand still, Ethan takes action, but with care to honor Ava's pride. He quietly contacts partners, funneling potential clients to her nonprofit, a project aiding Brooklyn's struggling children, into which Ava has poured her heart. Each email he sends, each call he makes, carries a flicker of hope for redemption, though he knows Ava might reject his help if she discovers it. He pictures her in her small office, surrounded by colorful posters and the smiles of children. She helps a stark contrast to the cold opulence of his high society life. Yet deep within, Ethan craves more than covert gestures. He longs to face Ava, to ask about the child, about the years they've been apart, about the scars he left behind. Each night, as the city lights flicker outside his window, he imagines standing before her, offering the apology he owes her. But fear of rejection, like a creeping shadow, holds him back. Will Ava ever forgive him, or has she built a world with no room for him? And if the child is truly his, what will he do with that responsibility? New York, with its relentless pulse, seems to urge Ethan toward answers. He walks through Manhattan's bustling streets, but his mind always returns to the alley behind the Sapphire Room, where Ava stood, steadfast and unyielding. Each step he takes is a battle between past and present, between the man he has become and the man he wishes to be. The secret of the child, like an unquenched flame, burns quietly, awaiting a moment to erupt. Will Ava's next move unveil the truth, or plunge Ethan into a new storm? Rain pours down on New York like a somber gray curtain, draping the streets of Manhattan in a dramatic veil of melancholy. Amid the flickering lights of taxis and the wail of ambulance sirens, Ethan Brooks races through the storm, his heart pounding wildly as he learns that Ava, his ex-wife, has collapsed at the Sapphire Room. The secret about the baby, the possibility that it might be his, burns quietly in his mind, propelling him toward the restaurant with an irresistible urgency. When he arrives, the sight of Ava clutching her stomach, her face pale against the floor bathed in light, makes him feel as though the world is crumbling beneath him. Without hesitation, Ethan scoops her into his arms, charges back into the rain, and rushes her to Mount Sinai Hospital where fate awaits. In the hospital corridor, the cold white light casts a harsh glow on Ethan's face, mirroring the chaos raging within him. The rain continues to fall outside, as if washing away the polished veneer of his life, exposing a man torn between regret and hope. He recalls the days in Brooklyn when Ava was the flame guiding him through his darkest moments. Now she lies behind the delivery room door, battling pain alone, and Ethan feels more powerless than ever. Each tick of the wall clock strikes like a hammer, pounding against memories of the mistakes he made the nights he left Ava waiting, the promises he failed to keep. When he's finally allowed into the delivery room, Ethan steps in with a heavy heart. Ava lies there, sweat beading on her forehead, her hands gripping the bed sheets tightly, her eyes a mix of fear and reluctant trust. He takes her hand, feeling the fragile yet resilient strength in her trembling fingers. In that moment, amid the hum of machines and her labored breaths, time seems to stand still. Ethan sees the Ava of old, the woman who once made him believe love could conquer all, but he also sees the Ava of now, a solitary warrior, ready to face any challenge for the child yet to be born. When little Lily comes into the world, her first cry pierces the stifling silence like a melody. Ethan stands frozen, tears streaming down his face, not from pure joy, but from a complex blend of love, guilt, and fear. Lily, with her tiny eyes and clenched fists, embodies a possibility he hasn't dared to fully confront. She might be his daughter. Ava, though exhausted, gazes at Lily with a fierce love, as if all the pain in the world was worth it. Ethan feels the distance between them, yet senses an invisible thread tying him to Ava and Lily across the lost years. In that fragile moment, Ethan wants to apologize, to promise he'll stay by Ava's side, even if only as a friend. But Ava, with eyes as sharp as the city's lights, looks straight at him. She knows Ethan might be Lily's father, but she's chosen silence, unwilling to let him step in out of mere obligation. Her resilience, like a mountain standing firm in a storm, makes Ethan realize that Ava doesn't need him to complete her life. She's found strength within herself, a strength he once unwittingly dimmed. Ethan stands there, torn between a desire to atone and the truth that Ava may not need him the way he needs her. Mount Sinai Hospital, with its bustling corridors and stark lighting, becomes the stage for a fateful climax. Ethan watches Ava cradle Lily, her eyes shimmering with a determination he's never seen before. He wonders if he could be part of their future, or if he's merely a shadow from their past, forever on the sidelines. The secret about Lily, like an unextinguished flame, awaits a decision that will change everything. Will Ava's choice open a new door, or forever close Ethan's chance? After those storm-lashed days when agony gripped her during labor on a rain-swept night at the Sapphire Room, and relief came only as Lily's cries pierced the sterile air of Mount Sinai Hospital, Ava has risen like a flame no storm could smother. The secret of the child's bloodline, the haunting possibility that Lily as Ethan's still lingers in the shadows, yet Ava has chosen a road paved by her own hands, owing nothing to the man who once held her heart's throne. In her studio, morning light spills across vibrant posters of the nonprofit she built, each image a banner of her defiance and pride. Weeks after Lily's birth, Ava returns to her life's work, lifting up Brooklyn's forgotten children, her project now thriving,
quietly nourished by unseen channels Ethan had opened. But Ava is no longer the woman who once stared at a peeling apartment wall, waiting for him through endless nights. She stands upright, chin high, cradling Lily as though holding the future itself. From afar, Ethan watches, a spectator to her rebirth, struck by the truth that she no longer needs his presence to burn bright. Her strength is her own, a fire no one can dim. One golden evening, the studio hums with life for a fundraising gala. Strings of light glow above, children's laughter rings out, and the air is threaded with stories of second chances. Ava, in an understated yet luminous dress, moves among philanthropists, journalists, and neighbors with the composure of a woman who has wrestled down the night. She speaks of a dream, a world where every child stands a chance, just as she hopes for Lily. The crowd leans in, held by her voice, by the power of a heart once shattered but now unshakable as stone in a storm. From the edge of the room, Ethan stands in stillness, pride and regret warring in his chest. His mind drifts to their Williamsburg days, when love seemed like an unbreakable sky. But here before him is a woman transformed free, fierce, and unbound by the ruins of his promises. She has thanked him for the night he stood by her in the jaws of life and death, but with a gentle finality told him she and Lily will walk their own road. Her words cut like silk clean, certain snapping the last tie between them, even as they release him from the chains of his guilt. Beneath Brooklyn's twinkling skyline, Ethan learns a truth both sharp and tender. Sometimes love is not possession, but release so the other can fly. Ava, holding Lily close, is living proof that wounds can be transmuted into strength that transforms the world. For the first time in years, Ethan feels the quiet weight of peace, as if her brilliance has illuminated his own forgiveness. As dusk deepens, applause swells and the room glows with joy. Ava stands at the center, eyes alight not as a woman abandoned, but as a beacon for all who wander in darkness. Ethan slips silently into the night, his shadow folding into the streets, carrying one lasting truth. Her happiness is the purest victory, even without him in it. And still, like a faint neon flicker on the Brooklyn skyline, a question lingers. Will her journey spark in you the belief that even in your darkest hour, you can ignite your own light?
Why did I trust him? Sophia's heart shattered as she lay broken at the foot of a Miami staircase, her unborn child's life hanging by a thread. Ethan, her tech mogul husband, had everything: fame, fortune, and her love, yet chose deception with his cunning mistress, Isabella. In the neon glow of South Beach, a single act of violence sparked a storm of secrets. Sophia's pain mirrors the betrayal we all fear, but her fight will inspire you. If you skip this, you'll miss a mother's unbreakable spirit and karma's epic strike. Keep watching!
Ethan Caldwell dreamed of a world ablaze with brilliance. As a young boy, he would gaze up at the night sky, envisioning Miami's towering skyscrapers where palm trees swayed and billionaires roamed free.
His eyes sparkled with a burning ambition, as if fate had etched his name into the neon lights of South Beach. With a razor-sharp mind and an iron will, Ethan refused to let his impoverished circumstances hold him back. He studied day and night, devouring business books, transforming every failure into a stepping stone toward glory. By age 30, Ethan had become a phenomenon. He founded a tech startup, a groundbreaking online shopping platform that reshaped how Americans shopped. Money flooded in like a tidal wave, carrying him from the muddy streets of Detroit to a lavish penthouse overlooking the emerald waters of Biscayne Bay. His name graced the cover of Forbes, hailed as Miami's youngest self-made billionaire. Extravagant yacht parties in Coconut Grove became his stage, where he captivated investors with a confident smile and promises of colossal profits. Tailored suits, a gleaming Patek Philippe watch, and a piercing gaze made him an icon of success, a man who seemed invincible. Yet, beneath the glamorous facade, an unquenchable hunger gnawed at Ethan's soul. Money, fame, handshakes with Wall Street titans, it was never enough. He craved something greater, an absolute sense of control, a legacy that surpassed mere numbers in a bank account. He wanted the world to bow before him, to prove no limit could bind him. On long nights, as Miami's lights flickered outside his penthouse windows, Ethan stood alone, staring down at the city, feeling an unnamed void. He wondered, was there anything that could satisfy this insatiable ambition? His marriage to Sophia Bennett, a nonprofit worker, was a rare beacon in Ethan's chaotic life. Sophia, with her golden hair and warm smile, embodied a sincerity Miami seldom saw. They met at a charity event in Coral Gables, where her passionate talk about helping underprivileged children left Ethan in awe. Unlike other women drawn to his wealth, Sophia loved the real him, or at least the man he once aspired to be. Their romance unfolded swiftly like a cool sea breeze, and soon they stood on South Beach's white sands, exchanging vows under a radiant sunset. But even Sophia's love couldn't extinguish the fire of ambition raging within Ethan. She was the anchor grounding him to reality, yet he saw it as a chain binding him. On evenings when she spoke of dreams to build a family, of a home filled with children's laughter, Ethan merely nodded, his forced smile masking unease. He loved Sophia, but that love felt too small compared to his grand vision. He began to question whether a stable life, with a wife and a child on the way, was too high a price for his freedom. In his mind, seeds of doubt sprouted, sown by his own arrogance and relentless desire. Each step Ethan took on the path to glory brought him closer to the abyss. He failed to see that, in Miami's dazzling world, where light and shadow intertwined, a single misstep could topple an empire. As the seductive whispers of another woman, Isabella, began to echo, Ethan stood at a fateful crossroads. Would his boundless ambition lead him to triumph or destruction? Sophia Bennett shone like a gentle beacon, untouched by the vanity of Miami's glittering world. Raised in a quiet Orlando suburb, where tree-lined streets echoed with children's laughter, Sophia carried a pure heart, always drawn to helping others. Her work at a charity for underprivileged children was not just a job, it was her very breath. At a fundraising gala in Coral Gables, beneath the glow of chandeliers, her eyes met Ethan Caldwell's, the man she believed was her destiny. Her warm smile, like a Miami sea breeze, melted his arrogant facade, making him feel for the first time that he didn't need to prove anything. Their romance ignited swiftly, like a love song written on the white sands of South Beach. Sophia, with her flowing golden hair and eyes sparkling with faith, gave her entire heart to Ethan. Their wedding, held on the shore under a radiant sunset, was a fairy tale admired across Miami. Social media overflowed with images of the bride in a pristine white gown, hand in hand with her billionaire husband, as if their love was invincible. Sophia believed Ethan, despite his grand ambitions, yearned for a home as she did. When she discovered she was pregnant, joy crashed over her soul like waves on the shore. In their penthouse overlooking Biscayne Bay, she carefully placed star-shaped decals on the nursery walls, dreaming of a family filled with laughter. She rested her hand on her belly, feeling Ava's gentle kicks, and whispered words of love. Certain Ethan shared her eager anticipation for their child. But Sophia was unaware of the darkness creeping into Ethan's soul. His unease, seeded by relentless ambition, was pulling him further away. On evenings, when she shared plans of motherhood or family outings to the Everglades, Ethan responded with distracted nods, his gaze lost in the city's lights. Sophia, with her generous heart, assumed it was merely work stress. She remained patient, believing her love was strong enough to draw him back. She meticulously prepared for Ava, choosing a white crib and reading parenting books, each act steeped in hope. She failed to see the cracks in their perfect picture, oblivious to Ethan's temptation by the toxic whispers of another woman, one bent on destroying everything she cherished. In quiet moments, as moonlight streamed through the penthouse windows, Sophia often stood alone, gazing at the shimmering ocean, feeling a fragile happiness. She didn't know that Ethan, the man she loved, was wrestling with a monster within. He loved her, but that love was being eclipsed by ambition and a craving for thrills she couldn't provide. Each of Sophia's smiles, each tender gesture, unwittingly became a burden in his eyes. She suspected nothing, never imagining that the husband she trusted would soon become a betrayer, ready to plunge her into a nightmare with no escape. Sophia's pure heart, like a beacon illuminating Ethan's life, stood on the brink of being extinguished by the one she loved most. Can Sophia's love hold Ethan back from the abyss, or is a dark secret waiting to unravel? Keep watching to find out. Isabella Vega swept into the room like a silent storm, captivating every gaze. With long, glossy black hair cascading down and eyes sharp as if they could speak, she was the embodiment of temptation, a renowned venture capitalist famed for transforming fledgling startups into empires. But behind her, alluring smile and voice smooth as velvet, Isabella concealed a cold, ruthless ambition, aiming not just for wealth but for absolute power. When her gaze locked onto Ethan Caldwell, a man at the pinnacle of fame, a dangerous plan began to form, like a spider weaving its web, waiting for its prey to fall. Isabella was nothing like Sophia, Ethan's gentle wife, who carried a warm heart and simple dreams. Sophia loved Ethan for who he was, but Isabella saw in him only a gateway to glory. At the conference, amid the hum of presentations and the shimmering glow of giant screens, she approached Ethan with calculated confidence. Her smile, like the neon lights of South Beach, was both enchanting and dangerous. She deftly offered praise, hailing him as Miami's rising star, but each word was an arrow aimed precisely at Ethan's ego. She painted visions of global deals, billion-dollar contracts, and a tech empire surpassing all rivals. "You were born to rule, Ethan," she whispered in his mind, though no words left her lips, as if she knew how to slip into the deepest crevices of his soul. But Isabella's ambitions went beyond aiding Ethan. She wanted to control him, to seize his empire, and, most crucially, to eliminate any obstacles in her path. Sophia, with her genuine love and unborn child, became a thorn in her side. Isabella, with a mind sharp as a blade, began sowing poisonous seeds in Ethan's thoughts. She never spoke directly, but subtly suggested that a great man like him shouldn't be shackled by an ordinary life. "A child will hold you back," she implied, through tales of unburdened billionaires, free from family ties. Each meeting, from discreet dinners at upscale Miami Beach restaurants to clandestine yacht trips, was a step forward in her scheme. She turned Ethan into a puppet, convincing him that Sophia and Ava were barriers keeping him from his true destiny. In private moments, as moonlight streamed through the windows of a Silicon Valley hotel, Isabella stood before a mirror, her eyes gleaming with self-satisfaction. She didn't love Ethan. She didn't know love. To her, he was merely a pawn in her game of power. She had long planned to seize his fortune, manipulate his business connections, and, when the time came, discard him like a sacrificed pawn. But she didn't foresee that Ethan, though enthralled, still carried a flicker of conscience struggling weakly within. Nor did she anticipate that Sophia, the woman she dismissed, would become an unquenchable flame. Isabella, with the arrogance of a predator, believed herself invincible, certain that no one could unravel the intricate web of lies she had meticulously woven. Each of Isabella's smiles was a dagger, each word a drop of poison, drawing Ethan closer to a horrific decision. She knew that to claim everything, she had to push him down a path of no return. But would Isabella's ruthless ambition truly triumph, or was a greater storm awaiting her? A nightmare had crept into Ethan Caldwell's lavish penthouse. That night, the air hung heavy, as if foretelling an impending tragedy. In Ethan's mind, the toxic whispers of Isabella Vega echoed relentlessly, like a demonic anthem. "You were born to conquer, Ethan. A child will drag you down." Those words, like flames devouring the last remnants of his conscience, fanned his ambition and greed into a raging inferno. In the room where glass walls reflected the shimmering light of Biscayne Bay, Ethan stood, his gaze lost, torn between his love for Sophia and the vision of power Isabella had painted. Sophia, with the gentle grace of an expectant mother, ascended the spiral glass staircase, her hand tenderly caressing her 7-month pregnant belly. Her smile glowed like moonlight as she spoke of the name Ava, chosen for their daughter with all her love and hope. She dreamed of days strolling with Ava on South Beach, of cozy family evenings together. But Ethan, standing behind her, no longer heard her words. In his mind, Isabella's voice drowned out everything, screaming that Sophia and Ava were chains binding him to an ordinary life. His ambition, nurtured by Isabella's whispers, had turned love into an unbearable burden. In a chilling moment, as if time itself froze, Ethan reached out toward Sophia. A forceful push, devoid of hesitation, sent her off balance. Sophia's scream tore through the air, echoing in the opulent penthouse. Her body tumbled down the glass steps, each impact like a dagger piercing Ethan's own heart. She collapsed onto the cold marble floor, blood from her wounds pooling, staining the room's radiant glow. Ethan stood motionless, eyes wide with horror, as if he couldn't believe the crime he had just committed. Sophia's scream lingered in his mind, mingling with the frantic pounding of his heart. He wanted to rush to her side, to undo that horrific moment, but his feet felt cemented to the floor. By some miracle, Sophia clung to life, though her breaths were faint. Paramedics rushed in, whisking her to Jackson Memorial Hospital, where doctors fought to save both mother and child. Ava, born prematurely, lay in a NICU incubator, tiny tubes encircling her fragile body. Ethan, standing outside the emergency room, felt his world crumble. Guilt gnawed at him, but the fear of being exposed loomed even larger. Isabella, upon hearing the news, showed no trace of panic. With a cold smile, she urged Ethan to stay calm, promising they would overcome everything, that this was merely a necessary step toward freedom. But deep within, Ethan sensed a chilling void, a realization that he had sold his soul for a hollow dream. The penthouse, once a symbol of triumph, now stood as the scene of a tragedy. Shattered glass from Sophia's fall glinted under the lights, like fragments of a broken dream. Ethan, in a panic, tried to wipe away the blood, but each crimson drop was an accusation reminding him of his betrayal. He was unaware that, somewhere in the city, another pair of eyes was watching a chance witness who had heard Sophia's scream. The secret of Ethan and Isabella teetered on the edge of exposure, and a storm of consequences was drawing near. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. A storm of suspicion was brewing, poised to sweep away Ethan Caldwell's web of lies. Detective Laura Martinez, a seasoned officer of the Miami Police Department, stood before the lavish penthouse where Sophia had fallen amid a heart-wrenching scream. With eyes sharp as a blade and instincts honed like a knife, Laura sensed a dark truth lurking behind the so-called accident. No slippery puddle, no loose rug, only dried bloodstains on the marble floor, and a story that didn't add up. Laura, with over 2 decades of chasing the truth, knew this was no random fall. A crime was being concealed, and she was determined to expose it. Laura began digging into Ethan's glamorous life. She combed through phone records, uncovering late-night calls between him and Isabella Vega, stretching for hours while Sophia slept soundly. One message, in particular, chilled her to the bone. "She's holding you back. Act fast." The words, brief but laced with menace, were like a razor-sharp dagger pointing directly at Ethan and Isabella. Laura pressed on, seeking out the Caldwell family's housekeeper, Rosa, who had worked in the penthouse for years. Through trembling eyes and a hesitant voice, Rosa recounted an evening before the incident when she heard Ethan shout in the living room, "I can't keep doing this." The argument, though vague, was a crucial piece, illuminating the puzzle of betrayal Laura was painstakingly assembling. Meanwhile, Miami's public was ablaze with outrage. Tabloids dubbed the case the Miami Penthouse Mystery, with sensational headlines spreading across South Beach. Reporters swarmed outside Jackson Memorial Hospital, where Sophia fought to survive, and the NICU, where tiny Ava lay in an incubator. The media's pressure weighed heavily on Ethan. His tech empire, once a symbol of invincibility, began to wobble. Investors, fearing scandal, withdrew funds in droves, sending company stocks plummeting. Ethan, who once stood confidently at the pinnacle, now felt the ground trembling beneath him. He tried to maintain a calm facade, but each suspicious glance from Laura, each damning headline, stabbed like a knife into his bleeding conscience. In the shadows, Isabella operated like a silent serpent. Not content with manipulating Ethan, she began siphoning money from his company accounts, funneling millions into secret offshore funds. With the cold precision of a predator, Isabella prepared her escape, convinced she could leave Ethan to bear the consequences. She appeared at events in Coconut Grove, her smug smile masking her sinister intent. But she was unaware that Laura was tracking her every move. A leaked bank document discovered by one of Laura's colleagues revealed suspicious transactions from Ethan's accounts to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Each piece of evidence was a thread tightening the noose around Ethan and Isabella. Ethan, torn between guilt and fear, began losing sleep. The image of Sophia tumbling down the stairs haunted him, blending with the faint cries of Ava in his mind. He stood before the penthouse window, gazing out at Biscayne Bay, feeling loneliness choke him. Isabella, with a chilling tone, urged him to stay silent, promising they would prevail if he followed her lead. But Laura Martinez, like an unrelenting specter, was closing in on the truth. A new witness, a neighbor, who had heard Sophia's scream, contacted the police, bringing a detail that could shatter everything. The truth was lurking, ready to erupt. In the dim glow of a hospital room at Jackson Memorial, where the steady hum of machines mingled with the faint rhythm of a fragile heartbeat, Sophia Bennett opened her eyes after her coma, like a flame reigniting from smoldering ashes. Her body ached, her memories shattered like fragments of broken glass, but the mother's heart within her burned brightly, unyielding to any force that might extinguish it. Lying in the hospital bed, she clutched Ava's tiny blanket, her infant daughter fighting for life in the NICU incubator. Silent tears streamed down her cheeks, not from physical pain, but from a quiet vow she would protect Ava at all costs. Miami, with its neon lights and South Beach glamour, seemed miles away, but in her heart, a new strength was rising. Though memories of that fateful night were mere fragments, the image of Ethan's cold eyes, the husband she once loved deeply, haunted her mind like an unending nightmare. She couldn't recall the push, but an unease, sharp as an invisible blade, made her tremble whenever she thought of him. During her days in the hospital, amidst pain and fitful sleep, an unexpected visitor arrived. Mia Torres, her childhood friend from Orlando, now a sharp-witted investigative journalist. Mia, her eyes blazing with determination, brought a secret that pierced Sophia's heart. She revealed Isabella Vega's shady financial dealings tied to Ethan's accounts, with millions of dollars funneled overseas. The cold numbers on paper cut like a knife, confirming that Ethan had not only betrayed her, but had been ensnared in Isabella's web of deceit. The truth, though agonizing, ignited a fire within Sophia. She was no longer the naive woman who dreamed of a happy family on South Beach's shores. Her love for Ava, the child she had yet to hold fully in her arms, became an unbreakable source of resilience. Each time she peered through the NICU's glass, seeing Ava, small yet fierce, Sophia felt strength coursing through her veins. She began piecing together the fragments of her memory moments when Ethan grew distant, his evasive glances when she spoke of Ava. She realized the man she once trusted had been swayed by ambition and temptation, turning their love into a dangerous game of power. Her pain slowly transformed into determination, a promise that she would not let Ava grow up in the shadow of betrayal. Meanwhile, Ethan sank deeper into his own abyss, Standing in the now frigid penthouse, he was torn apart by guilt and fear. The image of Sophia tumbling down the stairs, her scream, and Ava's frail gaze in the incubator haunted him relentlessly. Isabella, with chilling ruthlessness, kept pressing him. She threatened to expose everything if he didn't follow her plan, even hinting that Sophia, if she awoke, could become a greater threat. But Ethan, though manipulated, began to sense the fragility of the web of lies he had helped weave. He faced a terrifying choice: continue concealing the crime, perhaps harming Sophia further, or confront himself and the inevitable consequences. In the hospital, Sophia started jotting down her scattered memories, tiny fragments of the days before the accident. She was unaware that Mia, driven by a journalist's instinct, was quietly digging deeper, tracing Isabella's financial trail. A larger secret, hidden in bank transactions, awaited exposure. Laura Martinez, the relentless detective, was also closing in on Ethan and Isabella, armed with new evidence from the neighbor witness. The noose of justice was tightening, and Sophia, though physically frail, was becoming the center of a storm about to erupt. Beneath the dazzling lights of a rooftop bar in downtown Miami, where sparkling cocktails reflected neon glows, a fateful shock shattered Isabella Vega's web of lies. Mia Torres, Sophia's childhood friend and a sharp-witted journalist, secretly recorded Isabella in a moment of arrogance as she boasted about manipulating Ethan to seize his empire. Isabella's words, cold and smug, cut through the air like a blade. She had orchestrated Ethan's descent into crime, siphoned millions of dollars, and planned to flee with her spoils. That recording, aired on a viral news segment sweeping across America, ignited a storm of public outrage, transforming Isabella from a queen of power into a hunted fugitive. Detective Laura Martinez, with her razor-sharp instincts, sprang into action. Armed with Mia's evidence, she led a police team to a luxurious South Beach hotel, where Isabella was packing to escape to Europe. Cold handcuffs snapped around her wrists, and the confident gaze that once enchanted Ethan now held only panic. Isabella was arrested for conspiracy and fraud, facing charges that could lock her away for life. Meanwhile, Ethan, torn apart by guilt, could no longer bear the weight. The image of Sophia tumbling down the stairs, Ava's faint cries in the NICU, and the pressure of the investigation broke his resolve. In a rare moment of clarity, he approached Laura, confessing that he had pushed Sophia, hoping this act would shield Ava from further harm. The trial at the Miami-Dade courthouse became the nation's focal point. Reporters crowded outside, cameras capturing every moment as Sophia, still frail from her injuries, entered the courtroom with resolute strength. Her testimony, soft yet powerful, swept through the room like a gentle breeze. She spoke not of hatred or revenge, but of her love for Ava and her desire for her daughter to grow up in a just world. Her words, like light piercing through darkness, touched the hearts of everyone in the room, from the jury to the television audience. Ethan bowed his head, tears streaming down as he listened to Sophia, confronting the consequences of his actions for the first time. Isabella, in contrast, maintained a cold facade, but her eyes betrayed her defeat. The court sentenced Ethan to 15 years in prison for intentional harm, a punishment reflecting his belated remorse. Isabella, with her malicious schemes and fraudulent acts, received 25 years, becoming a symbol of greed's downfall. The once glorious penthouse was sealed, a stark reminder of the cost of betrayal. But the story didn't end in darkness. Sophia, now a single mother, transformed her pain into hope. She founded a charity in Miami, aiding survivors of domestic violence, helping them rediscover light as she had. Ava, the infant who once fought for life in an incubator, grew strong, her radiant smile like South Beach sunshine, a testament to her mother's resilience. In peaceful mornings, Sophia often walked Ava along the beach, where waves crashed and sea breezes carried whispers of freedom. She watched her daughter play in the sand, feeling her own strength, a strength not born of wealth or power, but of love and courage. Miami, once the stage of her tragedy, now became the backdrop for her rebirth. Karma had spoken, and Sophia's light shone brighter than ever, like a beacon that no storm could extinguish. What do you think Sophia did to turn her pain into triumph? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to the channel to catch more inspiring stories.
The grand doors slammed open, and a hush swept through the glittering Peninsula ballroom. All eyes locked on millionaire Derek Mason, his smirk carved in arrogance as he laced fingers with his mistress, Vanessa Lane, under the unblinking gaze of Los Angeles' elite. But when his pregnant wife, Lauren Harper, strode in arm with powerhouse CEO Caleb Reynolds, the chandeliers themselves seemed to quiver, as though bracing for the chaos about to ignite. In the next heartbeat, secrets would shatter, alliances would crumble, and Derek's empire would teeter on the brink of ruin. This is a tale of ruthless ambition, searing betrayal, and unyielding resilience that will hold you captive until the very last word. The chandeliers of the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills blazed like constellations, scattering diamonds of light across an opulent ballroom where the city's elite had gathered in silk and power. The Empower Tomorrow Gala, Los Angeles' crown jewel of charity, had transformed the space into a glittering theater. Beneath the shimmer, false smiles and shrewd glances wove a quiet web of intrigue. Derek Mason, 5-year-old tech millionaire, cut through the crowd in a tailored black tuxedo that clung like armor, wearing the assured smirk of a man convinced he owned the night. At his side, Vanessa Lane shimmered in a molten gold silk gown, her eyes gleaming with predatory precision. The crowd hummed, whispers flared like sparks, as Derek clasped her hand in full view, a move so brazen it felt like a gauntlet thrown. The peninsula's polished marble floors reflected the glow of white roses flown in from Napa, their fragrance mingling with the heady perfume of fine wine, yet the air thickened under the weight of stares. Derek basked in the scrutiny, his smile curled with arrogance. Vanessa, publicly labeled his media consultant, radiated something sharper, a story the city longed to confirm, a scandal smoldering just beneath the satin surface. The audience, from Wall Street tycoons to Hollywood royalty, stayed locked on the pair. Some hid shock behind crystal flutes. Others exchanged sly, knowing smirks. All felt the pressure drop, a storm massing at the edges of the room. Derek, who had wrestled a dying AI startup into a billion-dollar empire, was no stranger to spectacle. From the rough streets of Detroit to Silicon Valley's gilded boardrooms, he'd climbed with raw hunger and surgical cunning. Tonight, he meant to flaunt more than his fortune. He was announcing himself as a man untouchable. Vanessa, hair tumbling in chestnut waves, moved beside him like a queen beside her chosen king. Every fold of her dress proclaimed both beauty and ambition. Yet the unspoken absence of Lauren Harper, Derek's wife, now 7 months pregnant, began to ripple through the chatter. Had she willingly ceded the stage or been erased from it? Crystal rang as champagne glasses touched. Every laugh was lacquered with artifice. CEOs, celebrities, and philanthropists traded talk of markets and yachts, but their gazes kept drifting back to the stage. No one cared for the official cause more than they cared for the theater Derek was staging. Microphone in hand, his voice rolled smooth and deep, praising donors and reciting the gala's mission. But his eyes, restless, magnetic, kept returning to Vanessa as if she were the crown jewel in his empire. Applause rose, but beneath it pulsed a low current of tension. A few reporters scribbled, thumbs hovering over record buttons, ready for the detonation. Vanessa's smile never wavered as she tightened her grip on Derek's hand, staking her claim under the chandelier's glare. She knew she was the room's fixation, and she welcomed it. From her modest beginnings in Seattle, she had sharpened her beauty and intellect into social weapons. Derek was her ultimate conquest, the man whose hunger for attention mirrored her own. And yet, somewhere deep, a sliver of unease pressed against her ribs. The whispered name of Lauren Harper carried a weight she couldn't shake.